How does it feel to have a birthday?
Me?
You, sir.
I was thinking about it. This was one of the nicest birthdays I could remember.
You had it in this apartment?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, oh right. What made it so nice?
I don't know. I woke up in the morning in a very high spirit for no reason whatsoever. I spoke to my kids. The first thing I did, I spoke to my kids. And when they called me, they started to sing happy birthday. And then in the end, they said, the youngest one said, 1, 2, 3. So my older son tells them, we're going to be late for school. We go like this. This is how I wake up in the morning. You're going to be late to school. So he said 10, 20, 30, 40. And then I said, stop. And this is how it goes. So it's really funny to wake up in the morning. And I don't know, everything just went, I don't know how to explain it. Everything was harmony.
Good.
The whole day.
Good.
It was beautiful. And sunny and a beautiful night. It's very nice.
So often you found like a man who's found himself inside. You often sound that way.
Yes, I was never big on my birthdays. It's the first time that I really treated myself like it's my birthday, like saying thank you or something. It was nice. It was very nice.
We'll have many, many more.
Thank you.
A good place to be tonight. I believe so. What, in retrospect, what seems a little bit different about the last meeting than usual meetings?
The last meeting the chair had asked the group to pose questions directly towards him. Is that right?
How did you feel about that in retrospect?
It felt to be a pretty charged meeting. A lot of people were speaking more freely and more often than it seemed in meetings past. So I guess I felt encouraged by it.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like a very good idea. I'm for it. In fact, we'll probably do it again. Speaking to someone who found that they are having very good results in the things they do. Very pleased with what they're doing. Yet they also add to that they feel a large loss of energy, that they're kind of tired, psychically and emotionally. I took the position of putting these two issues together, and I suggested, does this person believe that they can do what they do without this psychological expense? And after looking at it from a few directions, it seems to me that their answer is no. They're of the opinion that this amount of energy or this amount of charge must be spent in order to get fine results. I favor the position of getting fine results with as minimal an expense of energy as one can muster up. I gave the example, there's so many worldwide performers and actors and musicians. They put on a wonderful performance, they work, you see it's marvelous, everybody applauds. They can do this one night, 2 nights, 3 nights. What happens when they're into doing this 200 nights a year? They need to have a source of energy that does not get spent. Or else you may be able to do a month, 4 months, but something starts to give. So I brought this up with the gentleman. I don't think I convinced him, I wasn't trying to, but I think he still sees it that for big results you have to spend big energy. It's a well-known fact in weightlifting that when you lift a certain weight, you can lift it struggling, or you can lift it as if by magic. And all the good lifters lifted that way. They could raise enormous amounts of weight and do it daily, anytime you wanted them. A fellow called Hackenschmidt from Europe, they got there. So I'd like to hear your ideas on how you feel about at least learning to, or trying to learn to do things that could be very difficult, that could be draining of time and efforts, or just very easily doing it. Almost as if by magic it's done. What do you think?
I think that we wake up with the battery concept. There's so much energy inside of the day, and it will eventually all or most or some of it be drained. To give you an example of how it gets drained very quickly with this man, anger, waking up and just becoming obsessed with something, expressing a negative emotion, this man finds his battery draining very quickly in that scenario. Pertaining to the weightlifting thing, when the chair had suggested that to this man, he went to the gym and tried it, didn't have any success, but I believe that depending on how much importance we regard things with, it can be more or less draining. If you regard something, say a basement flooding, with less importance, so it will flood, it won't flood, something will happen, something won't happen. Can I be prepared in a logical sense and think rationally about it? That's a lot less draining than all-out panic and emotional distress, which I think in that case, the battery gets drained very quickly. So I think there, to a degree, is a choice in the matter.
A degree, a memory comes to mind, a very famous Broadway stage actress. She was known for really having a fit before the performance started, including vomiting, awful. And then she went on stage and had marvelous performances, and she was known all over the world. On the other hand, there have been many great stars and people come out and do something that appears to be very, very difficult, and they're actually nothing. They're just going through the motions, like a magician tries to make something look harder than it is, you know. But it's the same thing you do 6 nights a week for a couple of years on Broadway. You can't be exhausted every night. Now, do you believe that's worth training for?
Yes. To quote someone very wonderful, Coltrane has a saying, freedom beyond discipline. I assume he means practicing your instrument and being so disciplined that you can eventually have some sort of freedom with it. I believe with whatever one is interested in or conditioning themselves to do or to be like, they can eventually develop a discipline to have a freedom in that sense. And yes, I think it's worth it.
Yeah. So you aspire that maybe someday everything will be kind of easy. What do you think, David? Thank you.
This man is very much like the individual that Richard described that he was speaking to, in that he spends enormous amounts of energy and finds himself in the same condition as the individual who remarked that they felt psychically depleted, emotionally depleted, physically depleted. And this man has gotten so used to that state of being that he considers that the norm. And as Peter was describing the battery, David thought that we don't really know how much energy we have until we push it, in the sense that would I have thought that I could have 2 hours of sleep or what have you on a red eye and be at this meeting and be somewhat coherent? No, but it's what you do. You keep going and you push it. So this man is intrigued by the idea, and it makes sense to him that David could do his job and perform all of the functions that he performs by expending less energy, in that he realizes there are countless numbers of times throughout the day that David's mind, along the lines of what Peter was referring to, is spinning about something and getting charged up with some anger or emotion that's depleting his energy, but is otherwise actually not producing anything or engaged in anything real. It's just all in here. And there are countless numbers of times during the day where if David were paying attention to his body, he'd realize his muscles are contracting when they don't need to be. And so it seems to make sense that there should be a way to do all of the things that David is doing, expending less energy and not becoming any less effective at what he's doing. But he just has not engaged in.
Does he have any idea of how to?
It would seem that on the physical level, it would start with the more often you can notice that one is tense and clenching muscles. David's not a doctor or a scientist, but he assumes that if you're clenching muscles, you are using energy to do that. And so if you're not clenching muscles, you're not using energy. So there you've just saved however many calories that expends during the day. So that's an energy savings. The feelings that Peter described, anger, other things that lead to that clenching physically, also expend some sort of energy psychically, and if one could reduce that, that would also conserve on energy. So it seems like it goes back to whether you want to call it being aware of oneself, awareness, remembering oneself, whatever lexicon suits you. More of that leads to less expenditure of energy.
I would like very much to help you along these lines. I'm fairly knowledgeable of that.
Thank you.
I've been working with this idea for a number of years. I have found that at certain times I can walk all over the house, say, easy. No problem. Sometimes I'll get up out of a chair and walk from there to the telephone or the wall or something, and immediately I feel like I've run a mile. Often enough this has happened so that I can't say I don't understand it. It happens with regularity. 9 out of 10 times I'll get up, I'll do what I'm going to do. But there are times when I'll get up, just by getting out of the chair, it's like, wow, gee, I must have done something wrong. By now we're at the point where it's not inexplicable. I must have done something wrong, either with my body or with my mind. But I'm firmly convinced that one should be able to do all these things, not only the physical aspects of the daily round, but the emotional aspects, the business aspects, easily. Albert, you know about this.
Yes. Of course, there's a connection between awareness and loss of energy. If you're a young man like me,
Happy birthday.
I could do with enough energy that I get when I wake up in the morning pretty much anytime. But if I beat myself on the head and I worry and I haven't slept and I worry and I complain and I curse and I fight, I will not have energy after 11 o'clock in the morning. The way I see it, for me, the way it happened is when I started with the work, I was ruled by negative emotions, and the work brought positive emotion into my system. And slowly, I fed and brought more light until eventually it was a balance. I could choose to say, I'm not going to complain. Yes? Today I feel that I'm ruled by positive emotions, and I protect my kingdom from the negative emotions. And when you start to change your mind about living like that, you don't lose as much energy because you're busy, you're passionate, you wake up in the morning, you do things, you are busy. When you're not busy, you're like, your life is a drag. So how do you bring it? We all look for things, but the work, for me, for example, is the most fascinating thing. I'm very passionate. I don't need a job to be passionate. I don't need to paint. This is what I like. I love the ideas, how they pop into my mind when I can talk to you and write it and have experiences. And this is amazing because I'm creating my new me or something. I don't know. I'm in a process of creation. So I think there is a very important element of mental practicing to say to the mind, to say thank you, for example, because with gratitude you will smile. If you don't smile, you don't look like you know, something's happening, and you can change that. You can observe where you're killing yourself. For example, the schedule. The schedule is killing David. It's killing him. But David is in charge of the schedule. But the schedule is in charge of David. Until David don't going to take charge of his schedule, he's not going to have energy because the schedule is killing him. So if you don't understand how it works, and then you say, hold on a second, let's take charge. How do you take charge? You organize everything. You organize your life according to you, because you are now the ruler of your new you. You don't want to run around all day and have no life. You want to have a good life. This is how I think life gets easy and the magic happens, you know? You know what? I never go to like these shows, but I went to this thing called the Wicked. And I happened to sit the second row, and they were here, you know? And I know they do this every day, but I don't think they do this every day, because, you know, the spit was on my head. It was so much power there. In the end of the show, after 2 hours of dancing and going crazy, all of them were full of energy. And this magic can happen again and again, because when you go on stage, we and them create this connection. She had this one most powerful thing. She looked me right in the eyes, just scared the hell out of me. And I felt her alive like this, you know? This is what they do, and this is what we do.
Be careful, Albert, because so many men from all walks of life have felt this over a stage actress.
You think it's special, right? No, it's great energy, so much power.
I agree with you in that I'm up here working with this damn thing an awful lot. In the moment that I say to myself, oh God, I can't do it. No. Immediately I feel my meter going down, down, down. Immediately. It hits right away. So I have to lie to myself a lot. Yes, of course I can do it. So I put myself on a lot in exercise. I'm going to open the window, which is very easy for me. Then I'm going to make a cup of coffee. Anybody, even I can do that. Then I'm going to open the door. No, I can't. That's too hard. Change the smile. I can do it. And this constant feeding of I can do it, because you mentioned that in the way things you do. I can do it. I can do it. It's as easy. I can do it. This is a pleasure. Hello, Mr. Jones. How are you? Good. Yes. I'll buy your entire company. Thank you. Have a nice day, kid. And say hello to your wife. She's very nice. Why shouldn't it be like that? Or why can't we practice doing things like that? Because what happens on the other end with Mr. Jones, say, entre nous, is not that important. The most he can say is drop dead. Okay. Call somebody else and do the same story. Is it that important? Or is an awful thing to turn the meter down and boom, that happened, then, oh. Are they looking for you?
Perhaps, Gil.
Perhaps, sure, why not? Enjoy yourself.
About 21 years ago, this person needed to gather a lot of energy. Something happened in personal life, so I needed a lot of energy to go forward. So this person went to a workshop given by Ernest Rossi. and he talked about ultradian rhythm in a human body, that 90 minutes it goes up to the peak and it starts to come down, and then 20 minutes it goes down, another 90 minutes it starts to go up. So his basic theory was, you work with people, work with 90 minutes and take 20-minute break. And as you always mention, sit down and sense yourself for next session. And Dr. Rossi mentioned that when people do not follow their ultradian rhythm, for instance, entertainers, they can't function anymore after years of not paying attention to their rhythm. And I think it was very helpful to this person. And I was able to gather a lot of energy. And then also I added a will at the end.
You wrote a will?
I added the will to myself. My life depends on I will gather energy. So I was able to gather some energy.
And you, sir, you have a family, you have a young family. You better do what you can to stick around so that they'll get to see more of you. I keep saying, I've said it numerous times, during these moments of exercise, because life is the exercise, all the exercises are in life. The phone's ring. I'm going to pick this up and just be super relaxed, like I had earned $1 million today. Hello? Yes, good. My pleasure, right? Wrong number. Okay. But don't take away my car. Thank you. By the way, where are you? Detroit? How's the weather there today? Very nice, very nice. You have a terrific day for yourself. Thank you. Drop dead. All exercises until this kind of thing comes naturally. Remember years ago I said, you go to pick up a cup and you hold it here, this right arm, there's a muscle being, wow, come on, stop that. How soft can you be when picking up a pen or picking up a cup or picking up your arm? How soft can you be? Spending as little as possible. Here's one thing that I want to share. Through the various Eastern cultures, beginning with Sat and other folks of loftier healings, I've been told to breathe from the bottom. Right. No. Another one says, no, breathe from the back. Okay. Do that for a couple of years. No, breathe from the sides. And I say to myself, but I always have this thing, like I'm always coughing and I'm out of breath, this and that. No matter where I put my hand, this top part never moves. The bottom moves, the side moves, the back moves, this part never moves. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start making myself take deep breaths from here, not from the Dantian or from here. And you know I'm coughing less? It's work. I say it works to some degree, because this part here has these little ribs have to, open and do something. This can't stay dead. So I'm breathing deep breaths up here. I don't know why that works. I don't know if it works, but I know that I'm coughing less. Has anybody ever done anything like this? You have.
Yeah, it's a pretty common practice in yoga, in my yoga practice, where we just don't bring air to this part,
You
So
don't.
it's bringing it all the way up here, which is really expanding the space here. Because we're always doing this. And opening this up and bringing the air up here.
So you do that, bring air up there.
Good.
But you've heard of a lot of practices that don't.
You know more about this than
No, I don't. Don't take me for granted.
I'm not.
Yeah, because I've heard about all the belly breathing, back breathing, but I keep coughing all the time because nothing gets up here. Suppose that needs air up here. I'll try it. I'll try it for a year or two. If it doesn't work, doesn't work. I think it might. What do you think, James? You've fiddled with this.
I think maybe what you could be doing is breathing abdominally and here, like both together.
Both
I
together.
think it might help, and it could be something, from years of smoking or whatever. It could be something that's beneficial for you in particular to have more movement up here, just to invigorate that part of your body.
Yeah. So always in the last result, you yourself have to create your own exercises, do them, create. You create what's going to work for you. So I myself, I learned only from myself, things have to be done so easily, like it's fun. And if it doesn't work, that's the terror. Well, suppose it doesn't work. Well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So what? What do you think of this?
Well, recently I've had the kind of good fortune to go back through the steps of AA. And for the past month, I've been kind of marinating in the third step, which says you start every day saying, "Thy will, not mine, be done." And it's a very gentle shift of responsibility where you agree with yourself that you're going to live within the boundaries of your code and carry integrity, but that the outcome of the day will be shifted to your higher power, your God, your chi, or whatever it is. So what I've discovered in this past month with a staff that's smaller than it's really been in 10 years and projects that are 3 times as big, I have more energy, we're getting more done, there's an ease to everything. Because the illusion that my personality 100% prescribes to her capacities of control are lifted. It's negated. I have a commitment to turn my will, which means the outcome of my day, my illusion of my own ability to control the way a day will actually happen, is lifted. That's not up to me. All that's up to me is to do what I said I would do to the best of my ability. And negative thinking doesn't happen because I'm not frustrated with any outcome. I just take it and I do the next thing. So there can be no anger. There can be no frustration with it. It's a very simple little adjustment in how I approach the day that, along with, not allowing myself to worry, because why worry? Somebody else has it handled. It's an assumption that my outcome is not doom and gloom. It's an assumption that there's magic. It's an assumption that the invisible is at work in my life. With that here, I can just do the next thing with clarity, and I have a ton of energy. So there's been something that I believed I knew, And I believed I had it work in my life. I didn't. I wasn't turning things over in the morning. I was still assuming that I was going to manipulate or control the outcome of my day. I had hopes and fears tied to that assumption. And with removing this, actually very Buddhist, I think a lot of AA really is, the outcome is not predetermined. There's nothing to be upset about. We just solve problems as they come, and then we turn to the next day. And it's pretty simple. It's become simple. And it hasn't really altered on the external, but on the internal, I'm not drained. So things are getting done better. I hope I made that clear.
Has anybody found that they've experimented or tried back and forth with the amount of sleep they get? You get a lot of sleep?
I find, this man finds that even just this week, when he gets less than 6 hours of sleep, by the end of the day, such as yesterday, he's running on fumes. And he thinks he's being efficient and effective, but he's not. He'll think that he's doing something well, and then a half hour later, he'll realize he hasn't really been doing as much as he wanted to. And then earlier this week, he had gotten 7.5 hours of sleep. And he was in a positive, vibrant mood the whole day and felt confident. And so what the work has done is taught him awareness. So when he has lack of sleep, he knows if he's being paranoid, somewhat schizophrenic, and worrying of small things. It's because he has lack of sleep, and it's not because those things are really happening. So the work that this inner man is doing is controlling that. And so he's made it a goal and an aim to get more sleep so that he can accomplish better what the work sets out to do. And that is, as the chair had said, to do the job is how you do the job. And what the energy in the work should be giving one person is the confidence to do it. It's like, how do I walk to the office? How do I get on and off the subway and interact with other people? And this man was talking to Gabriel Bryan, what is the costume that you wear to just make it easier to do the act, to act as if, and to go through the day doing what one is supposed to do. And so the work allows one to fit into all these pieces, to economize energy as much as possible, to play the part, to get as much energy as possible to expand on what the actual job at hand is to do, and to practice that. And also, and through the connection with what one has, to the inner understanding of the kingdom of heaven, knows that is the most important thing, at least this man. So what happens with that professional job and the interaction with people should be expression of his professionalism, also knowing that it's his connection with his spirituality, his understanding of the kingdom of heaven makes the most important thing, not what's happening right there in the moment. And that should give one the confidence to be as it's people in the confidence to be in the moment and to say what they want to do and to act a certain way and to try their best in that situation. And so to what the chair was asking me, getting more sleep helps do that, and it helps with the awareness that is what the goal is.
The images I'm getting right now, for instance, I'm seeing a prisoner being told, tomorrow at dawn you're going to get shot, the firing squad is ready, going to be the end. All night long the person worries, disaster, oh please help, I forgive something. Suppose the same plot goes on, except little change. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're going to put on this, going to put the other, men are going to point their shoes. But it's only going to be with rubber bullets or no bullets. It's going to make noise. Nothing is going to happen to you. You're going to go, well, then we'll come and your girlfriend will pick you up and we'll take you away out of the country. You have a wonderful time. Do you think this same man will stay up in fear all night long? I don't think so. So I'm given to thinking how much of what pushes us in different directions is because of fear. Fear of failure, fear of this, fear you lose that, fear, fear, fear. Suppose somebody could do something with their mind so that there's no more fear. No more fear. How do you get to a spot where there's no more fear? He is saying the kingdom of heaven is the most important thing. She's been talking about the third step. Sobriety and turning of your will is the most important thing. Yet I invite people to think during the day, what seems to be the most important thing in your life from the moment you get up till you go to bed? Seems to be what's really on your mind. Because what you're thinking about is what's on your mind. The worst that can happen is the guns go bang, 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 bang. You go, oh. And then your girlfriend comes with the car, takes you away to the Riviera. Everything is fine. Do you believe that no matter what happens tomorrow, you're going to be okay, man? You're going to be beautiful. Your life is going to swing. You're going to make whatever you want.
Yeah, I believe that now. If I'm alive this time tomorrow, I do believe that because there's been so many. Mark has the observation. There's so many things that happen in my life, good and bad, that have changed everything. That if the carpet is suddenly pulled out from underneath me, I would be fine. As long as I have my mind intact and my capabilities, I can start over with nothing, and Mark would be fine. He could leave everything, not have a job, no girlfriend, no partner. He could just show up, like in the Terminator movies, how he just showed up naked in the park one day.
Ooh. That was a hot part, wasn't it?
Yeah. That actually happened. As long as I could remember everything of who I was. 6 months, have a job, apartment, everything, year, 2 years, be back to it. It would be a fun adventure.
Except this time you'll be dressed.
Yeah, go get clothes.
You can't walk around, running around Wall Street naked.
Yeah.
You know, it looks bad for everybody. I'll forget you said that. Yeah. Like, suppose somebody tells me right now, Gil, you've got another hour to live. What am I going to worry about? There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to think of. There's nothing to want. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing. Well, I guess, looks like the clock is running fast, but all right. Why can't we take so much of that? Because somehow, even with best intentions, we want the best. What we think is the best, we want that for everybody we care for. But other people went out and became actors, or they became musicians, or they became cowboys, or whatever. Why should I think that because I want my daughter to be this or this or that, she should have this or that, she should have a happy home? But there have been lots of daughters that didn't have happy homes and everything went wrong, and they wrote great books. And they're world famous for putting on paper all the stuff that happened to them. So why shouldn't it happen to you? I've lived through so much of my life knowing that today was the day that it was going to happen. Stardom was just around the corner. I knew it. But it never happened. The more I huffed and I puffed and I huffed and I puffed, nothing happened.
I think you said once that one of the greatest disservices we can do for other people is to save them from every pain.
Oh, that's torture. That's terrible to people. You should kill them better. In Belgium, they're going to kill them now. Did you read that today? They're going to take children with incurable diseases and this and this and that, and they're going to euthanize them. The bill is facing the powers that be in Belgium today, right now. It's going to be the latest service that the government does for you. If you're incurably ill, we'll kill you for free. Very nice guy. Yes, you were telling me just before you got killed. You forgot?
No, we were talking about years ago. I remember saying, you know, whether you just want to protect people from everything that might come at them. Because it's the worst way you could ever love anybody. And loving people is allowing them to make their mistakes and get hurt. Now, I'm not a parent, so I can imagine, I go through this with friends, that you have children, there'd be an overwhelming desire to try to make the path as perfect as you could. I know that was not a preoccupation of my parents, so they had illusions about it. And I am so grateful that they were incapable of doing a better job of that. Because I'd be really, it wouldn't be me, you know, if we don't overcome adversity, we don't become anything. You know, that's how we become. The best, most interesting, most creative, most distractedly insane at times people I've ever known have been the ones that have overcome things. It's only through that process that we shape and we grow and we learn. And then when we get to the point, you know, it kind of ties into what we're saying, if we get to the point where we learn to eat well and sleep well and breathe well and stay away from the fear of our past repeating, kind of have alignment with some form of higher power, then we learn how to get life to a groovy place. But the people I grew up with that kind of had the very sheltered, safe environments, they stayed really sheltered, safe people, and they're dull as doorknobs. It's my observation.
I've read so many books and novels and this, written by people who were really from the dark side, lived in the dark side. Famous author called Nelson Algren. He wrote, one of the things he wrote was The Man with the Golden Arm. The other was A Walk on the Wild Side. There are so many people who have written books who have become world known, the heights, whose beginnings were dreadful, not so terrific, dreadful. And they took the things that happened to them and made a life with it. We're so afraid that around us something dreadful is going to happen. But nothing dreadful can happen. What can happen to you? You're going to die already. That's it. You're already sentenced. You're going to die. So now what's the second worst? What on earth can happen to you that's worth getting all hung up for? One day among the men say, you're going to come home from work with your little briefcase, you can put it down, martini, yes, you. Reggie, I got to have a conversation with you. Oh, of course. That's at 6:17. By 10:35, you're on the train station with your suitcase in hand. She had to tell you she can't deceive you anymore. It's the guy who cleans the pool, and this and this and that and that. Do you want things like that shouldn't happen to you? Or things like that shouldn't happen to anybody? You have no idea of tomorrow. Where do we get the courage to say whatever the hell happens tomorrow, I can swing with it, I can go with it. Doesn't mean the damn thing. Countries got lost, nations got lost. Napoleon had to say, fellas, don't hit me anymore. You know, so what? Rome fell, can you believe that? The Roman Empire. So why not you too? No food to eat, eat grass. I honestly wish I could go out in my lawn and practice, eat the grass. I paid this guy so much to come with his lawnmower. I'll eat the grass. Maybe I can get a friendly goat to help me. One day, 100 years ago, I received a little note, not a formal letter, not anything, a little fakakta note about that big. Hey, sorry, Gil, but we don't need you in September. Good luck and thanks. This was a gig I had been on 6 nights a week for 5 or 6 years. The summer was almost over. What do I do now? There's only 3 hotels open that have. What do I do now? There was a kid on the way. The house. Holy smoke! Emis. I pulled over the car to the side of the road and I cried. I sobbed and I cried. What do I do now? I think I had maybe $200 in the bank. What do I do now? That moment was the beginning of a new life for me. A brand new life that I just touched the door with that moment, with that piece of paper in hand. I've called up the guy that wrote to me and said, thank you, God bless you, you saved my life. Because I wouldn't have left the old life unless I had been thrown out of it. What's the worst that can happen? Your wife will leave you, your job gets lost, that's so hard. Your kids turn out. Milty Hisler, my dear friend, he had 2 little boys. Oh, he loved these little boys, One of them won't speak to him at all, and the other one is doing time for stealing cars. They were sweet little kids. Why do we live in fear that something dreadful is going to happen to us? I told you a story about Peg Leg Bates.
No,
You weren't here that night?
I don't believe so. Was it?
Why weren't you here?
Maybe I was in Los Angeles. What happened with Peg Leg?
Should I tell her anyway?
It's on the CD.
Let's see there.
The story of Peg Leg Bates is on the CD that everybody that Gil recorded, that everybody is free to order from CD Baby and hear it for themselves.
And it's only $9, isn't it, or less?
Very cheap.
Peg Leg Bates. There's a little black kid somewhere in Georgia, somewhere, 1915 or something, a little boy. And he used to go down to the bar. And he used to dance. And people say, wow, here, kid, is $0.50, here's a quarter, here's a penny. Nice. Good dancer. Then he goes to his job in the factory, working for the white man, of course. Goes to a job in the factory. An accident happens. His leg gets taken off by a machine. Now what's he going to do? Not only is he black, 1 strike. Not only is he out of work, 2 strikes, but he's a one-legged black guy without a job. It can't get much worse than that. What does he do? He teaches himself to dance all the steps he used to do, because the only thing he used to know how to do. with one leg. Eventually he becomes a worldwide star whom I knew, a beautiful guy, known as Peg Leg Bates, except he didn't dance with the peg leg, he just danced with his pants tucked up. Fantastic, fantastic dancer. If he had kept both legs, he'd probably be still dancing at the bar for 50 cents, working in a factory for $4 a week. I propose, including me. I don't make propositions to you. I make propositions to myself, and I let you listen in. We've got to get over being afraid, because the worst thing that can happen is already going to happen. Jobs come and go, apartments come and go, nations come and go, empires come and go. Edgar J. Hoover lost his job. Can we live with a great big so what to anything and anybody? So what? I can live without you.
Part of the aligning with this will, this higher power will thing, is really about deciding consciously to love my fate. So regardless of what the fate is, I've already decided to love it. And it's, truly not in my nature to align this way. But the result of doing so is going, okay, whatever it is, I'm going to do it. It's kind of I guess it's the Nietzsche, it's the Germans, it's that which does not kill us makes us stronger. And that's the acceptance and love of fate. I find it very, very, very profoundly simple and powerful. Peg leg. He would never have become, or likely wouldn't have become, world famous. If he
And he was too
two
chicken
legs.
to cut it off himself.
So we never know. That would be a terrible fear, but we humans have capacities to, especially those of us who are lucky enough to be in the work, kind of attached to mysticism. We should be able to be boundless.
Whatever happens to you, so what? It has happened to somebody else. Well, who cares? This little moment that we have on earth, a minute, an instant. So whatever happens with it, happens with it. So yeah. Nelson Mandela, 27 years in jail. He comes out to be the president, the first black president of Africa. I think that if we have this dream of the way that we want things to be, and when that dream gets bent or gets misbent or something, we go absolutely nuts, and we even live in the fear that the dream may not work out. Obsessed with the idea that this dream has to happen. So as you were saying before, when you get the bad breaks or this or that, some kind act has said to you very young, no man, dreams don't happen. They happen, they don't happen, but you can't call the shot. And on top of that, we're raised in societies that says you can do it. You can definitely do it. If you work hard enough, you'll be president.
I think something happens in the process of realizing that the whole process that you go through of realizing that you're not in control and experiencing the terror of not being able to manipulate the situation, not being able to get what you want.
Yes.
All this me stuff.
The
Something
dream.
has to melt in that process, and then you somehow merge with some bigger universe, other than just that self. That notion of self transforms in some way in that process, and that, I believe, is what enables you to embrace this transformation of letting go of what you wanted it to become and completely accepting whatever it is, because now you're you're actually a bigger person in some way, but your personhood is not, it's no longer at stake in some way because there's some other thing that you've merged with.
I applaud what you're saying, the continuation of what she's saying, and I'm going to jiggle with it a bit. You're getting the image of merging with something that's greater. Those are a few ups in your description. What happens if I send out the message, no, nothing ups, nothing happens, nothing, you don't melt with anything, you don't join anything, you just see that life is a complete screw-up for you, and that's it. Now die already or live through it. Because the other is still a taste of, now once you realize, then the happy ending comes. This picture ain't got a happy ending.
I do.
You have a happy ending. Don't kill yourself now.
No, it's not a happy ending. But I think that in my essence, there is a seed. And the seed is according to what I think it is. But the seed is much more.
Okay.
Much more. Because and then I go and I do the observation. I like Gurdjieff when he said that first of all, before you can start anything, you have to go to all your leakage and fix this plumbing disaster. And people say, yeah, we'll fix the plumbing disaster. They didn't fix the plumbing disaster, and they went to see, Nicole and meditation and other things. But the plumbing disaster, it's still there. In order for you to block this leakage, it's to look at the fear, it's to not care, it's to do the work. When you do that, I think that something else is happening. And you start living your life knowing that you, inside, in your essence, the possibilities or the potential is extremely, extremely amazing according to what you think. And all you have to be now is to let go of the fear and first of all, dream your life. What do you want? Listen, I ask myself this every day. And every time it's something else and something more, and I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
What do I really want? And when I know what I want, it usually happens. It does. Because first of all, anything that you want to create, first of all, it needs to be seen.
Right.
It's the first thing. It's the image. And then you have to feed it. The energy. If you don't have energy and you waste it all day, you do not have the energy to create attention. Because awareness is attention. The more attention you have, the more connected you are to yourself, the more you're connected to the above, you start paying attention a little bit more to the spirit world or to the different ideas, not life, she likes me, she doesn't like me, and your life is about life, You are a spiritual entity that came here to have
a human experience.
Not the opposite. So, just in the thinking, I think. The thinking. Because then, observation, it's not like, I have this Albert and this Albert and this. And for many years you can go, yes, I know this Albert and I know this Albert. Yeah, and then what? You know them all and then. These are the Albert who make you believe the seed is this and this, which is stupid. There's nothing to do with anything. You don't give anybody anything. You think only about you. You succeed and everybody will love you and your mother will be happy. It's stupid. You can change the world maybe. Maybe you can be the Mandela. Maybe you are. So you can design your life by believing that it's possible and start looking at your essence. Observation.
Mm-hmm.
When people have dreams and they have these goals, it makes that one can identify with them and have that be everything that they are about. So they become this identification. They forget what they're doing through the day. And Mark falls through this all the time. He does a session exercise and he gets identified with something and then wants it. And he's just thinking about the future Mark. He's just thinking in the future he's going to get this. He forgets what he's doing. He forgets how he can be a spiritual being. This week he had just read the book he's reading after he does his session exercise in the morning to Mark. And there's a parable that Jesus talks about. It talks about how when the revelation comes, when Jesus comes back, one will be able to recognize him. But before that, there's going to be a lot of false Jesuses or false prophets that come into the way. And these can be in the form of dreams. These could be in the form of other people. They could be in the form of houses. And there's going to be one after another in which a person or humans will think this is the end game. This is what it's about. This is coming for this person to idolize and to worship. And Jesus will say, no, know that these are false prophets, and it's not the real thing, and have awareness through your spiritual work that this is it. Applying this to the conversation we have now, you think of Mark as going for that home run with the startup, going for thinking this relationship's going to save him. In a way, these are all false prophets that this parable talks about, and Mark gets identified with what that is. And to what Albert said, if we are spiritual beings having human experience, then there should be the spiritual work one's going for, and not these dreams that can be enriched with materialness and looking more so to the future. And the prayer will say these are false.
What happens to a living entity if it stops thinking? Sun came up. There's hunger down here, I think, or over here someplace. Desire to put something in the mouth. Put something in the mouth, desire is empty. Take some water. Now what? When there's nothing, do we ever get past the idea of I want? Is there anybody who's able to reach the end of want? What do you want? What does this squirrel want? Does he sit around and think of the nuts he's going to save in September? What happens? Is there an end to want?
I think the squirrel wants to survive.
Okay, he wants to survive. Does he think to himself he wants to survive? He just survives.
I don't think so.
I
don't think so.
Yeah. Well, that's getting close to what I'm
It's the end
tossing
of I
around.
want. It's the end of I want, I am.
I don't know.
Kind of seems like it would be to me. My dogs
Then it
don't.
is.
Dogs don't have too great an agenda. So I think most of them are kind of just like breathing, eating, hanging.
He's opened the door to an idea. As long as the entity is alive, it needs to eat, needs to breathe, it needs a few getting out of the rain, that sort of thing. But it doesn't have any visual plans for this tomorrow, or even more incredible, next year or 5 years from now. What's going to happen 5 years from now? Suppose somebody says, I don't know, and what's more, I don't care.
Maybe the end of I want is the end of I.
Hey, that's a good one. The end of I.
Yeah.
Is that one of the ways of finally getting rid of the I?
I think so. I mean, that's what I feel. I feel it's possible. It's the thing that interests me the most at the moment.
You know, there is two desires. There's desires of life, and then there is other desires that have nothing to do with life. This is what I think. Desire that you cannot buy. You can only, I don't know.
Have you got an example of one?
Yes. I'll tell you, a real one.
Hmm.
I left the house, the key, and then I forgot your envelope. Went back, I opened it, I closed the door, and then I went right past the elevator. A feeling of my doormen don't like me came up to me, and I saw it coming, and I'm like, what? And I realized that I have this part in me that sometimes would come and says, you haven't taken care of the doorman, they probably don't like you, or the parking garage. But usually I'm very good with them. But it's this thing that comes. Okay? I want this part to never see me again for the rest of my life.
I hear you.
I really, really
I hear
want
you.
it very, very much.
I wish.
Only God can give it to me. I cannot go to work. I cannot want. Again, I want. This is what I want. I really want this.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Because today I caught him.
I hear
But
you.
sometimes you go to the elevator, says, yes, you know what, I'll give you $5. Then later, what the hell did you do? What happened? Just
What
now.
we will do to be liked.
Yes, and it's all automatic.
Okay. I started playing the saxophone when I'm about 14. I don't practice. I'm 17. I'm almost 18. What am I going to do with my life? I don't know how to do anything. I used to push the trucks down 37th Street with the clothing. The truck fell down in the winter, snowy, muddy day, and the ladies' brassieres from the Graham, what's the name of the company? Grayson Shops of California. The brassieres are getting wet, the panties are getting wet, and people have put. And I'm saying, man, I'm not going to work again in my life. All right. I'm going to play the saxophone. Oh, good. Okay, play a saxophone. I sound awful. I have a job. I sound awful. I keep getting jobs. I sound awful. You tell me you sound pretty good. Man, I sound awful. I cannot ever in my life play a note I like. Not one. 40 years ago, I quit all this. I go to become a psychotherapist. Now I start to play again. Don't like the way it sounds. There's something missing. There's something wrong. Oh, man. Playing is horrible. What was that? One note sounds okay. Boom, 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 all day long. Boom, boom, boom. Poor woman is working it up. Boom, boom, boom. Same. It goes. Next day, boom. It's back. It goes. This is madness, and this is not years ago. This is like 6 months ago. Boom, 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 boom. Two notes that sound good. Holy smoke! What's going on? Next day, nothing sounds good. Nothing. Boom, boom, boom. Three notes that sound good. Oh man! I say the same things that you said. I can't buy it. It's not for sale. I can't steal it. If I could steal it, I would have stolen it. If I could buy it, I would buy it. If I could steal the money to buy it. There is nothing will give me that sound to sound right. In my mind, I get on my hands and knees, not in body, in my mind. God, if there is a God, please help me. I have lived my whole life trying to get this thing to sound right, and I can't. Nothing that I know of in the world. Yeah, I'm with one of the better saxophone players ever. Can't get it. Can't steal it. Can't do anything. God help me. I beg of you. Pick up the horn. It's there. Holy smoke, it's there. And it's been there for a couple of months now. I know I pick up the horn. I can play with anybody. I'm not ashamed to play with anybody. If Bird heard me, I play for Bird. He would say, yeah, man. I had to beg to God and tell God, there's nothing else in the world I really want. And the one thing that I do want, I can't have. The only thing I want, I can't have. Man, I don't want jobs, I don't want careers, I don't want homes, I don't want anything in the world except to sound good. And somehow, it's there. Not every single moment, but it's there. I got to tell you, it's there. And then, because I live in this world of magic and demons and angels and what have you, a dear friend of the family calls me up and says, I would like you to borrow my father's saxophone. Take it and borrow it, play it at home. That woman's name is Beverly Getz. Stan's daughter, I'm playing right now, I'm playing Stan's horn. And it sounds right. So I had to think, the only reason that happened, that could have, there was no hope left for me. Like when I came into the work, there was no hope left for me that I could be sane. Every day I got crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier. And I came to Henry, I said, please help me, man. If you don't help me, I want to kill myself. I don't want to live being this crazy, and I'm getting crazier every day. I can't have a job. I can't have a friend. I can't have anything because I'm too crazy. And he said, you come every day, sit here, listen, talk, and I think we can save you. So I think it boils down to when you really want something desperately, that you're willing to walk away from everything else, then there's a chance that if God is in a good mood, you might have it. Because I can't talk about things that I don't know, but this is my life, my real life, and that's the way it happens. Did you ever want anything so much that you begged to God for?
I did. When I got sober, I went to the National Redwood Grove in San Francisco, and I lied on a bench and hoped to have my sanity back and do anything for it. And I was 24 and 10 months, and I was this beautiful Redwood Grove. It was the only grove in the country for AIDS victims at the time, in 1996. And we went to an NA meeting, got sober, and then my first high-tech job was 3-week gig for $9 an hour. I was just turned 25, showed up, big screen TVs, box software, blew me away, didn't know anything about it. I was supposed to be there from 9 to 6. The next day I was there at 7:45, waiting for the boss to get there. Opened the door, I went in. 4 years later, I was a manager of the Top Dog. And I gave up everything else to make that happen. I never wanted to go back. to where it was. Years later, I went back to the National Grove to just pay some respects. There's a lot of people out there. What's going on? There's like people there, rakes, shovels, other things. And so I go up and ask some guy, and he happens to be the manager of it. He said, what's going on? He goes, one Saturday a month we go and we take care of the place. And just want you to know that this is the only place in California where people can actually spread their ashes. And I said, I was here about 12 years ago, and I said a prayer, and I felt like something happened in your grove. Like I was talking to someone there. And he said, wow, that's great. This amazing really happened. He goes, hey, why don't you meet this guy John? This guy John gets up out of his little chair and walks over. And he says, John, he told us, he showed the doctors he was only supposed to have 6 months to live. Now he's on month 9. He's like 6 feet tall, in a hospice. He was like 110 pounds. And at that moment I realized this could have been me, could have been me, like in that roller coaster. And so going back to that time in 1986, I was lying on that bench, just like totally spun out. I would do anything for this to stop and not happen again. And that's just sort of led to this path of turning things around.
You're going to beg to the right place. Has anybody here ever begged for something to some form of their life?
I begged for my life itself. One time, in the very early seconds of a drug-induced seizure, I first screamed out my friend Jesse's name, and then turned to God, and then went into seizure land, and woke up later. And then 2 other times in the midst of just a general drug overdose, begging to God for my life, scrawling out later illegible notes, trying to make a contract with God to not let me die and I'll never do drugs again. And, those are times that I beg for something to God.
And you got it. Maybe that's what we read about from guys like Napoleon Hill and so forth. You've got to want something so much that the vibration of your desire will go through to the ears of the invisible. But you've got to want it desperately. And maybe we get taught not to want. But the dichotomy is to want, but not to want. How can you have both at the same time?
When James was speaking earlier, a phrase came into my mind, and it's a phrase that I always wondered what it meant. For many years I wondered the meaning of this. It's a very old phrase, and it goes, "The king is dead, long live the king." And I suddenly felt that I understood the meaning of it, and I believe that Maurice Nicole makes reference to this quite a bit in the Mark, as I recall, that the king is the self, is the symbolism for the self, and so the king is dead, the self has to move aside to get to the other self. Long live the king. And I think that what the inner self, or the essence, or however we want to call it, the outer self, for lack of a better term, wants money, it wants a nice house, it wants children, it wants a new bicycle, whatever it wants. But this inner self, I think it usually wants just one very simple thing. nothing complicated at all. And I think in Gil's case, I think all he ever wanted his whole life was to play like Stan Getz.
All I ever wanted.
I know that that's the only time he gets emotional is when he talks about that.
Yeah.
And for myself, the only thing I want is to feel energy and perceive energy. That's all I want. So it has, this thing that I want, that I obsess over and think about all the time and practice. It has nothing to do with outwardly what I spend my life doing. It has really not that much to do with playing music or writing books or any of the other things that I do. But that thing is like what I really want. And it's just a simple thing. And it doesn't have anything to do with anything. But that's what I want. And Gil wants to play like Stan Getz. That's what he wants. And I think if we can all find that one thing that we really want.
I think it has to do with wanting it for yourself, not for anyone else. I don't think it'll work for anyone else. There'll be something that you want, something that is your soul, that without that, life isn't worth living. Yeah.
And the beauty of it all is that if you really want it, the universe will bring it to you.
Yes.
This is the beauty.
When you want it enough.
Yeah. And Maurice Nicole always says, be careful what you wish for. Neville Goddard says, look, we know it works. It's already working for you, for everyone. Let me teach you how to do it right, and then you can bring upon you what you want by imagination and the power to feel. You already have it. This is, the technique. So first you got to know yourself. This is first. The second thing is you have to start practicing holding, not impression, holding moving of your life. So you practice before you go to sleep. You go, okay, I took my layer, I brushed my teeth, and you go backwards. And it's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You go backward with everything that you've done during the day. I made my coffee, I made my tea, I brushed my teeth, I took my pajama, I took more of my pajama. Backwards. And you see how difficult it is. But if you do it every day, you have this energy, a very fine energy to hold images. So now you have the tools to play, if you think about it. Because there is a lot of information coming, right? It's like, you always say, you get the phone call, but it's busy. So the line is not busy, right? So he actually practices that there is the law of assumption, and this is how the law works. This is what you have to do. And the beauty of it, that your being must change, because according to the law of the assumption, you see it, you feel as if it's real, and then you start to behave as if you already have it. Then it counts. Yeah. So if you see in the mirror and you feel like you are him, I'm Elvis, in the mirror, and usually you send this thing into the universe, and the universe provides for you. Just don't worry about, the details. That's what he always warning. Don't worry how it's going to happen. Don't worry about it. Just want it. And it's a very good practice in itself.
The group that Goddard was one of these thinkers, they had a title. There were about 25 of them. They have a title for all 25 of them, advanced thinkers. Very
He was a
well
serious
known.
guy.
That whole bunch is very well known.
Yes, serious people.
Yeah.
It's hard work. They don't play.
Mm.
I identify with what Sue said about this flow of energy. I would say that's the centerpiece for myself also. And there's a precision to one's life that sensation, it's like being guided constantly. I feel like a sailor on the ocean with the star that you watch. And I find that type of clarity, without that, I really don't, I can't do anything. I don't ever choose to do anything that sensation doesn't drive me to do. Because it feels completely out of sorts. And I find the work to be a very precise science. And I really like that idea. It's like the exactness of all the things in the universe. And one is part of that. And if you go against that grain, you feel completely like you're dead. In the worst sense of the word. You're dead. So, and then every day, it's like you just wake up and then you do things that align you with your essence. And to get things done, they get done in their own time. So, and of course, I always speak about the willing exercise, which is always the starting point. So what good fortune to have such a wonderful map designed for oneself. And then just observing other people finding that alignment. Like Albert talking about the horses, I feel that Albert is a different person here since that time. And something quite wonderful has happened to him. So I wish him a happy birthday.
Thank you. You know, I think that a lot of people in the world, including myself, don't have a door to go into through something. You play the saxophone, you were a musician. Musicians, there's people who are painters, gifted people, there is 10%, let's say, or 5% of the population have something they do very well, everybody knows it, they know it. What do you are? Photographers, cameras, everywhere you go, he takes your head, the camera, he's a photographer, he was born a photographer, the other guy is a doctor, and I was a kid without a dream, or without anything. And what do? So you look, you search for your potential. Your essence is so covered, you have no idea what you're good at. And it's not easy for a young man, and most people are like that. And they somehow have to go into a new world and find something that moves their heart.
You told me you used to listen to the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia from your first restaurant.
No, it's from my apartment. I didn't have a restaurant. Yeah.
Sue, tell them a little bit about the lion.
The story of the lion?
Yeah.
Well, we were in our apartment in Ecuador over the winter, and there's an art show the first Friday of every month put on by a couple that we know who live upstairs, an American couple. And on this one particular Friday, we went to the show that they have in the lobby, and one of the artists that they were featuring was a young man in his 20s who they had sort of taken under their wing and guided him in terms of pricing his works and things like that. And the feature painting of the show was the painting of this lion, which probably some of you have seen because Gil, I think, likes to show it off when he's on Skype. And it was a very striking painting that even you could look at it and see that even this young artist had outdone himself on this one. All his other pieces were very good, but this one really had a special quality. And it was expensive. It was far, far more than I had been paying for any paintings or artwork that I'd been buying there. But I kept coming back to it, and I pointed it out to Gil, and then a friend of ours walked by and said, "Gil, that painting, that lion looks just like you." So then Gil said we could buy it. And he was ill quite a bit over the winter, and so he actually spent a lot of time just sitting in front of this painting and meditating in front of it and connecting with this image of this lion that we hung in our apartment there. And then when we got back to Pennsylvania, he kept saying, "I wish I had the lion here, I wish I had the lion here." So I sent away, I had taken a photograph of the lion, and I sent away and got it mounted on canvas, this photograph. And it came out really well, and in fact the company emailed me and they said, "This isn't our standard size, but we want you to be happy, so we're going to adjust it so that it fits your dimensions." I didn't ask for that. They volunteered that. And it came back, and it came out really, really nicely. So now it's hanging in our house here, and Gil's very happy now that he has this lion to connect with. There's something, I don't know, there's something about the image. It's very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. The first time I sat with the lion, I looked at it, and I knew that this was something that will or destiny or something had sent to me, put it right in front of my eyes. So I look more and more till I can almost see every line in this painting. And I asked the painting to please enter my essential self, to enter me, because there's something, a spot missing that needs what this lion is. And I told the lion, if you give me that, I promise you that you will have a place to be for the rest of our eternities together. I will give you a home. I will give you my thoughts. I will give you my fidelity. I will love you. And that took days and back. And I started feeling like, what would it be like to really have here that lion? And sometimes when I've written things in my writing name, my name is Alvarez Rivera de León, because de León, from the lion, is my father's name, my real father in this world. So I am also, my name is De León. They don't put these names in birth certificates. They give you two names and that's it. The first thing I do in the morning is I see the lion and I speak to it. I ask it for strength. I made a 9-word, like all those prayers I've made in 9 words. I want 17 years of courage, faith, and love. And I remind that all the time, that this lion comes to life and he lives. Now he has a body. He's not just a painting. He has a body. This body I've given to the lion in return for what I find from him. So it became, after that, not long after that, I guess, now that I think of it, was when the playing started to alter. A lot of things have altered. That's when I got the idea that I must breathe up here, regardless of what the wise men say about breathing here, I must breathe to here. Because this part of me has not been used in years and years and years. I've been doing the yoga breathing, the Chinese breathing, but this part I have not used in many years. So now I'm doing that. It's a very strong feeling as long as that painting is there. There's a place for that creature to live. I am the home of that creature, and I protect that painting. As long as I live, that painting will have a safe place to be. What do you think, Peter?
We were speaking about energy and conserving energy earlier this evening. It made me think of more Eastern philosophy, or Tai Chi in particular. Whereas growing up here, I always thought of strength as strength. Whereas the more I learned about Tai Chi, it doesn't matter if I'm gigantic. If someone is talented at Tai Chi, then they'll crush me. It's literally Master Ru will go like this, and I go flying. And it has nothing to do with his strength, it has everything to do with his energy. And it's the absolute economy of motion and bottling this primal force, this essence.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a rhythm of feeling the other person's energy. So rather than thinking of these things as boxes and squares, it's all together, and it's a symbiotic relationship rather than like this. It's much more an open, back and forth relationship. And in that rhythm, I think it's not a question of expenditure of energy. It's taking, it's giving, it's the ocean. But it's in our life. And I think that notion of conserving energy, of being one with that energy, rather than fighting it, and acknowledging it, makes
that an
sense.
action shouldn't cost.
Yeah, exactly.
That to me, that starts to bring up the borderline between magic. Like the weight or the action or whatever it is, it's almost desired to be up there, so it'll go. You don't have to. Any other statements?
Just one thing to add to the mix. Listening to a lot of people talking tonight, it kept coming up and it's been in my life a lot recently, so it's not surprising. But the idea of gratitude as a transformational concept where it changes the limitations of our minds and the limitations of our physical reality. That we can see maybe what is the same situation from such a completely different perspective. And allowing that, which is, I connect that to what Alex says, it is the above, the greater, the surrender to that, to what is. And been feeling that a lot in my life, and amazed by how wonderful things become. Hope it continues. You also hope that it's not just having a couple of good days. But I don't think so. I think there's a challenge there, though, because it can't be easy. Otherwise, we would obtain it and never have to continue to bring it up. But I think we do have to continuously work on that part of ourselves. So that was one thought that came to me.
Thank you. Imagine if it really is easy, and the only thing that makes it seem hard is our belief that it's difficult.
Chair's comment earlier about the weightlifter, the thought that came to me. The experience that I've had with that is, you say you're going to lift something, like, okay, I'm going to do 10. But there's a little part of your mind that says, I think you're really only going to get to 8. And wow, you get to 8, and 8 is really hard. There is something happening there that it's that negative thought, it's that limitation that's being imposed on the being that maybe we're just not capable of controlling yet, or being afraid of something that shuts it down. And I've experienced that where, in fact, just recently, where I thought, no, I will get to 12, not 10. 10's not enough. 12 is where I'm going today. And to get there, it isn't as much effort. So, there's a comment earlier was resonating something.
As if somehow, maybe in the 9th dimension, you could look at the weight and raise it with your mind. If you want it to go up, maybe it will go up. That what forces it up is not your body or your arms or your shoulders, it's wanting it. Anyway.
I would like to just add one thing. Popped into my head, and so I just want to say it. Earlier in the meeting, Chair was speaking about voices kind of telling him he can't open the door, and speaking about fear, kind of running everything, and those two things very much I can identify with. And I was, for some reason, this movie popped in my head. That was my favorite movie when I was a kid, and I watched it over and over again. And it was supposed to be a really terrible movie.
Which one is it?
It's a movie called Victory. And it's one of Sylvester Stallone's probably movie that he shouldn't have done, but I still think it's a great movie. And I watch it many times. Anyway, the premise of the movie is it takes place during World War II, and there are all these all the Allied prisoners, American prisoners, English prisoners from other countries, and the Germans want to stage a soccer game, a friendly soccer game between the German side, like a German all-star team, and then all the Allied prisoners that are really good. They've imprisoned all these famous soccer players.
Pele is one of them.
Pele is one of them. So, and the star of the movie is Michael Caine, who's supposedly this famous English soccer player. So anyway, the Allied prisoners that get chosen to play in this game, Michael Caine, Pele, and some other folks, they decide this is their big chance to escape. So they hatch a plan to escape during the game. somehow turn of events, Sylvester Stallone is the goalkeeper of the Allied team, probably to get the movie financed. So, and during the game is wholly an Allied prisoners thinking holy state just for them to escape. They don't really care about the game at all. They're going to go to this game. They have a plan to escape during halftime down this tunnel. And so it comes to the game. They're sort of playing, not really trying. Then they're getting into the game. You know, like, okay, we're all world-renowned soccer players. We really want to try. But the deck is stacked against them. The German referees are not on their side. And so the half is almost over. They're down 4-0. And near the end of the half, they finally score a goal. And so they go into halftime, and they're kind of enthusiastic. They scored a goal. But Sylvester Stallone and some other players remind them we're not here to win the game. We don't care about this game. All we care about is escape, right? But then they get this. There's this moment where Michael Caine, the captain, he said, "Wait a minute. Maybe we can win this game. Maybe forget about escaping, and we can go back and win this game and play what they want to do is really play." And anyway, he convinces them, these players, all they really want to do with their lives. Mr. Gill wants to sound like Stan Getz. They want to play soccer, and so they go back into the game, and pretty much knowing that if they go back on the field, they're going to be prisoners again, and probably die. But they just have to go back and play this game. I don't really encourage anyone to watch it. I won't give away the ending, but
they won.
They win. No, they didn't win. They don't win, but they tie.
No.
And then they escape. But I guess the point is
win-win.
They win-win. The point is that I never really looked at it through a certain light that I did tonight, where this fear of death is always somehow lurks inside my mind a lot, and it prevents me from doing so many things. And what really is magnificent to me is when people are doing what they love. When we see performers, I see a great piece of art or music that gives me goosebumps. And I don't know where it comes from, but this idea of just doing something you love and not worrying about anything else, including dying. And I think that's that motivates me to get those voices away and not live from that fear. Because I know that's what prevents me from doing everything.
You know the true story of Sylvester Stallone and Rocky?
Yeah.
For those who haven't heard about it, he took that story to every producer in Hollywood, every single person he could think of, again and again and again, maybe 100 times, took him years. Finally somebody said, okay, we'll do it. And it became the series of the highest financial results, and it made him a trillionaire and everything else. But he was turned down so many times, he just wouldn't quit. And he writes the story of this prize fighter who won't quit either. Well,
Da-da-da. Da-da-da. Sorry.
there's no drinking once you're here, Sue.
I think it's obvious that Sylvester Stallone made that movie, Victory, just so Derek could see it.
See it once.
Do you play soccer?
I did as a kid. That's what I wanted to do. But it turned out I was too slow and didn't work out.
You know what's funny? I like this movie too, but we see it completely different, you and I. Like, it's two movies. It's funny the way you say it.
What's your version?
I mean, look, it's a soccer thing. I mean, you have to be into the soccer thing, and internationally, and they bring some amazing players. And the soccer is high level, and Pelé is doing whatever he wants, and the Germans, so all this happiness and the victory, and gives a lot of emotions. But when they plan, let's go to the game, do the halftime, and then we run. The plan should have been, let's go to play, kick their ass, then go back and run. This was the original plan. Should have been. But nobody talked about it because everybody's afraid, you don't think big. Why not plan win from the beginning? So you go first, and then in the middle of the fun, you have to go. And the movie shows you that if you go back, you can win, play, and escape. This was life is all about. All you have to do is think right.
Win, play, and escape.
No, play. No,
Play.
first play, win,
PWE.
play,
Play.
win,
Win.
and escape.
Escape. PWE.
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 Play, tie, and escape.
Mr.
Victor, you should watch it over.
And all of you people were pretending never to have seen it, ever 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 to have seen it.